I'm a visual artist. I'm based in Dublin. I've been a practicing artist for 30 years now. I work across a variety of mediums, depending on what project I'm working on and what I think is the best way of presenting the idea that I'm working with. And that has included sculpture, video, animation, interventions, and installation work. So I was born in London, but I grew up in suburban Dublin. I guess it has impacted on my practice in the same sense of any other way of working, where it's the conversations that I'm having with the people that I meet and how that might influence what I'm doing and developing at the time. So as a child, I actually read a book called My Family and Other Animals, which was written by the English naturalist Gerard Durrell, and it's about his life growing up as a child on the island of Corfu. A lot of it is about his fascination at the local fauna that he was suddenly encountering and how unusual and exciting that was. And that really stuck with me as a kid, and I think I became a very amateur entomologist at the age of about 8 or 9. That kind of interest in what's going on in my surrounding environment has very much stuck with me. My practice has been very transient in that I have participated in lots of artist residency programs. In that sense, a studio to me is about doing some research, having the space and place to do some research and maybe start exploring ideas. Depending on the project, I might end up renting a space to build sculpture or an editing suite to work on a video piece. And I very much like having a separate studio space where I can go focus on what I'm trying to research and develop at that time. So often it comes out of something I've read or heard and sparks my interest, and then I begin to research into that, and that might be reading stuff on the internet or looking at films or videos or something that relate to the idea. Quite often my work is site specific or specific to a location, and that will dictate the way the project develops. Quite often this will obviously change over time, because that's just the nature of producing art. Some new idea comes up, or some new way of thinking about it through a conversation you might have with somebody. I guess what has inspired me continuously is the intricacy and complexity of the natural world that we're surrounded in, and the opportunity to learn more about that. Because I work across such a broad range of media, it really is dictated by the idea that I'm working in. In saying that, I do seem to gravitate towards sculpture and video, and I seem to flip between the two. So I might spend, a few months developing a sculptural project, and then I will switch back to working in video. I think it offers me a very broad way of working. I've developed my own language working that way, and I really like that. So in 2019, I was doing a residency in Wexford. I was down there for 3 months, and while I was there, I had the opportunity to talk to lots of different scientists and environmental specialists. And through these conversations, I learned about solitary bees, which I knew very little about at that time. Solitary bees pollinate more plants than any other bird or insect. They're really, really important for the health of our local biodiversity. And I also learned about a solitary bee called Osmia orlanta, only found along the east coast of Ireland. It's also the only bee in Ireland that lays her eggs in abandoned snail shells that are found along the coastline. As one component of that project, I produced these missing posters. We placed these posters at all the blue and green flag beaches in County Wexford. These Osmia orlanta are considered near threatened, which means that they could go extinct and disappear from our shorelines if they're not conserved. In Ireland, over the last 30 years, we've lost 30% of our insect population, due mainly to habitat loss and climate change. And it's really important that we realise how important these little small creatures are for our local environment and our biodiversity. What we're facing into with climate change is probably the most important social and political issue that we are facing right now. Like a lot of the work I produce, it actually originally exists outside of a gallery environment, and then through documentation give it a new life without losing its idea, and being able to represent it in new environments such as galleries or in a publication or on a website. And the reason being that I'm trying to make work that can access as wide an audience as possible. I mean, I guess I was always drawn to art as a child. I always enjoyed it as an experience. That progressed then through school. I guess I was lucky that I had a very good art teacher between Intercert and Leaving Cert. And I guess what I really enjoy and what I remember the most about art college was being surrounded by very smart and very creative people, and having that space and place to like indulge myself in making art, but having that opportunity to have conversations with my peers around how to make art. I mean, I enjoy being an artist basically because it allows me to explore and learn new things. I mean, for me, another element of my practice is I would consider it a collaborative practice, because normally it's being developed through conversations with people I'm meeting. It's also usually I'm trying to learn some new way of working to produce the work that I'm trying to produce. For me, it's always about trying to keep myself interested, and art is a really great place for doing that, you know.